Hey there, fellow seekers of wisdom. Have you ever found yourself pondering the meaning of life, grappling with the complexities of existence, or wondering how to navigate the tumultuous sea of human emotions? Well, my friends, you're not alone. Today, we're diving deep into the profound teachings of one of history's most revered Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius. But before we embark on this intellectual journey together, let me throw a couple of existential curveballs your way. What does it truly mean to live a Stoic life in the 21st century? Can the ancient wisdom of Marcus Aurelius provide the answers to the challenges we face today? And perhaps most provocatively, how does Stoicism intersect with something as intimate and complex as our sex lives? Now, hold on to your philosophical hats, because by the end of this video, I promise you a revelation, a secret about the great Marcus Aurelius that will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about Stoicism. 1. The Stoics' Guide to a Fulfilling Sex Life. Let's kick things off with a topic that might seem a bit surprising in the context of Stoicism: sex. Yes, you heard me right. Stoicism and sex, two seemingly incompatible realms that Marcus Aurelius managed to intertwine with his profound insights. As we delve into his meditations, we discover not just a Stoic emperor, but a man grappling with the complexities of desire, intimacy, and the human experience. Ever wondered how a Stoic approaches matters of the heart and other, bodily regions? Marcus Aurelius provides a unique perspective on the intersection of eros and philosophy, urging us to examine our desires and find balance in our pursuit of pleasure. So, how can one maintain a Stoic outlook on love and lust? Can sexual healing truly be aligned with Stoic principles? 2. Stoicism and Success, the winning combination. Now, let's shift gears and talk success. In a world obsessed with achievement, Marcus Aurelius whispers timeless wisdom in our ears. How do Stoic teachings guide us through the chaos of modern life, helping us achieve success while staying true to ourselves? Can practicing Stoicism be the key to unlocking our full potential? As we explore these questions, think about the people you surround yourself with. Are there individuals who uplift you on your journey, or are there toxic influences holding you back? Marcus Aurelius had his own thoughts on the matter, and you might be surprised by the impact certain people can have on your Stoic path. 3. Meditations for daily living. One cannot delve into the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius without exploring the cornerstone of his philosophy, meditations. How do these daily reflections shape a Stoic's mindset? What can we learn from his nightly routine and morning rituals that can be applied to our own lives? In the hustle and bustle of the modern world, how do we find moments for quiet contemplation? 4. The secret of Marcus Aurelius unveiled. Now, as promised, here's the secret you've been waiting for. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic sage, was not immune to the trials of love and passion. Yes, the great philosopher who preached self-control and resilience also grappled with the complexities of his own desires. As we uncover this intimate aspect of his life, it prompts us to reflect on our own vulnerabilities and the universality of human experience. So, how did Marcus Aurelius navigate the intricate dance between Stoicism and the tumultuous waters of passion? Can the lessons from his personal struggles inform our own approach to love and desire? The answers may surprise you. 5. People you should avoid on your Stoic journey. As we near the end of our philosophical expedition, let's touch on a topic that Marcus Aurelius considered crucial: choosing our companions wisely. In a world filled with distractions, toxic relationships, and energy-draining individuals, how can we apply Stoic principles to curate our social circles? Who are the people we should avoid on our Stoic journey, and how do they impact our pursuit of virtue and tranquility? As we wrap up this journey through the profound teachings of Marcus Aurelius, I invite you to share your thoughts in the comments below. What Stoic topics resonate with you? What challenges do you face on your Stoic journey? Your insights and experiences are invaluable to our growing community. Before you go, don't forget to hit that like button if you found this exploration enlightening, subscribe for more thought-provoking content, and share this video with friends and family. Your engagement fuels the pursuit of wisdom on our channel. Thank you for joining me on this odyssey through the mind of Marcus Aurelius. Your curiosity and thirst for knowledge inspire us to continue unraveling the mysteries of philosophy. Until next time, stay stoic, stay curious, and I'll see you in the next one.